Okay, here we are, part 2. Yes, I'm still wearing the same clothes because I had a free day and I'm playing catch up with all my content. So we're riding with it. Here is my Resident Evil Part 2, Requiem Part 2. You get the gist of it, you know what it is. So here we're going to be talking about the meat and potatoes of the second half of the game. Thank you very much for watching the first part. I really appreciate it. But this is where all of most of my favorite things happen in the game. This is probably the reason why I decided to do this 2 parts, because I thought there is a lot to unpack here. You spend most of this as Leon, I would say, in the second half of the game. Like, the first half very much feels for Grace, and then the second half it's all Leon, with a little bit of Grace sprinkled in there as well. I mentioned in the first part, it gives you little tastes of what the game is offering, and I meant that in the sense of you might play as Leon for like a short little section, and then you immediately switch back to Grace, and you're as Grace for a little bit of time, and that's one of the things that makes it feel like the first half is very much for Grace, and then the second half is for Leon. Now, what makes it so interesting is it finds a nice balance, I think, is what I'm trying to say. It works, but it also doesn't, because at the same time, when you do something really cool as Leon and then you immediately switch back to Grace, you kind of go, but I want more of that. And another criticism that I didn't mention in part 1 is I feel like, as much as I love the sections with the girl, I feel like they could have been a bit more, but it's just wishful thinking at this point, you know, just give me more of that. Like, this game's great, like, criticisms aside, I think as an entry in Resident Evil, it does the job, and if the series is going to be like this going forward, then I'm all for it. So anyway, I've tismed long enough on the intro for this. Resident Evil Requiem Part 2. Enjoy, guys. What was that? What was that? We kick off the second half of the game with Leon headed to Raccoon City, taking a trip down memory lane and realising that there is no escaping the past. Originally, Raccoon City was nuked, however it's since been retconned to have been a thermal bomb, and this is why most structures are still standing, and that is why also certain groups are inhabiting the city. This honestly looks amazing, and as a lifelong Resident Evil fan, returning to the place where it all began was quite nostalgic, and I've seen the game described as nostalgia slop, and I have to disagree. If it was nostalgia slop, we'd basically have the plot of Welcome to Raccoon City, and I don't think anybody wants that. Look at the size of this map, it's absolutely massive, and this is one element from the original idea of Requiem that I think has carried over. We move on into the city, go through this revolving door, and that's a suspicious amount of webs. Nope, not doing this. We've really hit the ground running in Raccoon City, haven't we? As cool as this was, I was slightly taken aback by it. Not just because it's a big fuck-off spider, but also because I feel like we didn't have time to initially explore the city before encountering a threat. It's not a bad thing and doesn't take away from the experience given Leon's playstyle, but like I said in part 1, this game pulls no punches. Oh, this game's triggering me in so many ways. On Insanity difficulty, there are a lot more spiders here, and later on before heading to the next area, you're ambushed by a lot of them, and I had very visible fear in this game. This boss fight wasn't too difficult and does take the spot for third best boss fight in the game, with the second and first coming up very soon. The Titan Spinner likes to disappear and surprise you as well, so keep on your toes fighting this thing. Once you've killed it, Leon drops another sick one-liner and heads deeper into Raccoon City and comes across a big gate blocking his way, and now we have to get parts to detonate the C4 that's attached to the gate. As much as I love this section of the game, it's absolutely the most drawn out part. It feels like it goes on for much longer than it should, but at the same time when I did the speed run, I ticked it off around the 45-minute mark. On my first run through, it easily took me around 2 to 3 hours to do, mostly because I kept dying at the stupid mortar section. The area, despite being sectioned off in different areas, is fucking massive, and it's handy to bring this platform down to save time, something that I didn't do on my first playthrough. Also, the zombies in the area are made of some sturdy stuff considering a thermal bomb was dropped on them. The parts of the detonator are located at 3 different relay stations set up by the BSAA, who have been operating in the city and should definitely not have been. Leon and Sherry have an exchange here that deepens the plot given to us at the end of Village. The division of BSAA that was set up here was the North American sector, and this ties into where I think the IP is headed story-wise. The first detonator piece is located right by the BSAA camp that you find. You encounter your first group of zombies here, and once you get to the top of the building, you have 2 paths to take. One straight to the first piece and one to the second. The second piece is locked behind a gate and we need fuel for the generator, so let's go get that. Upon getting the key for the apartment building, we take a detour through the parking area, and that's home to a fuck ton of zombies. In order to get the gas, we have to get 2 batteries for the gate in order to open it, and it's also here we encounter the second Blisterborn in the game. This area was very reminiscent of Resident Evil 2. Ah, wait, before we get to the gas, let's go to the aforementioned mortar section. This part was nuts, and I mean that. These zombies have got tremendous aim for dead folk. I understand that the zombies retain elements from their lives before, but my god, the suspension of disbelief was well and truly being tested here. I keep talking about Resident Evil 6, but this game is walking a fine line. During this section, we're also introduced to zombified BSAA soldiers who are bullet sponges in every sense of the motherfucking word. And some also like to use machine guns as well, and this can be frustrating as they shred your health even with the body armor that you can get from weapon cases. There are 3 mortars in this area, and if you're quick to react, you can use your sniper rifle to take the zombies out before firing on you. Once the second one's been taken out, you can use the mortar on the remaining enemies, thus clearing the path to another piece of the detonator. Getting the gas is our next objective, and when we get into the gas station and encounter a horde of zombies hell-bent on stopping us from getting out, it's all out action here, and it's so cool. We also get another chainsaw section here too, so that was a nice callback. We open the gate and head back towards the first detonator piece we found. We open that gate and zipline down onto what feels like an area ripped right out of The Last of Us. Can we just take a moment to appreciate Leon Kennedy here? Dude is pushing 50, and all this climbing, especially when he's on death's door, truly hardcore stuff. This section here was great. Shooting the glass under the zombies was a lot of fun. Once we got the third detonator piece, we need to get back down, and we do so by using this platform. We get through the horde of zombies in 2 different areas and find our way back to the BSAA camp, where we can use a key that we found earlier on to unlock this container. You can also return to the first area if you wish and open the container there too. The weapon charm you get here is really good for buffing damage on the sniper rifle as long as you don't have a scope on it. Alright, we're going to hit Resident Evil 6 territory again, but we're also going to inject some Devil May Cry in there too. Leon gets his bike, and once we detonate the C4, we head deeper into Raccoon City and head towards a place of familiarity. This section on the bike was my favourite in the entire game, not just because this is where my favourite one-liner is, but because seeing the damage done to the city and getting to be immersed in the size and scale of the city was breathtaking. Part of me really does want to explore the entirety of this wasteland. Oh look, it's Victor Gideon with an RPG. Dogs! This is the best game ever made! This section gives me serious Resident Evil Vendetta vibes, and I was locked the fuck in for it. Sadly, you don't control the bike, and you use your infinite ammo SMG to dispatch the dogs and stop Victor from blowing you up. This right here is just peak, and when I spoke to Kyle about it, it reeked of Devil May Cry, and it's also what I consider the Leon equivalent of punching a boulder.
Should've worn a helmet.
Well, this is it. After 28 years, we return to where it all began for Leon, the Raccoon City Police Department. This game is genuinely blowing my mind. I had to keep pinching myself because I just couldn't believe I was playing as Leon again in a Resident Evil game, and I couldn't believe I was back in RPD. The music accompanying this part was haunting and ticked all the boxes. Where's the generator? Welcome back, Leon. I fucking missed you. Oh look, it's Zeno and Grace. Why are they here? Well, we're about to find out, but first, let's do a little bit of exploring. The BSAA were using the police station as a base of operations to locate something known as the Ark, another underground base designed by Umbrella to do all of their evil science shit, and this is a location we're well and truly making our way to. The police station, despite being in absolute disrepair, is still amazing to look at. We can't really explore all of it, but the sections that we can are still pretty cool. Oh look, it's Tofu! Also, this callback to Marvin Branders broke me in so many ways. The police just wanted to throw Leon a party to welcome him, and Leon had been holding on to this for 28 years. When we're done here though, we get the lever from the library and use it to get into the east wing of RPD, and it's here we learn more about Grace. Zeno opens up to Grace about where she came from and the role she plays in the world of Resident Evil. We find out that Victor and Zeno were working together to figure out what the purpose of Elpis is. Elpis is a supposed mind control virus that would allow Oz Spencer to transfer his consciousness into another body. Zeno reveals that the missile strikes in Resident Evil 3 were orchestrated by a group known as the Connections to eliminate the infection and conceal Elpis so that no one would look for it in the Ark. We get another flashback section where we're playing as a clone back in 1990 at the orphanage from Resident Evil 2, and this is such an interesting section because this predates the mansion incident, so Umbrella were always in the business of practicing shady shit. The enemies in the area are very creepy and remind me of a little certain bioweapon that is about to show us ugly mug once more.
Have fun.
No freaking way, Mr. X. The nostalgia slop is real. Grace collapses and Zeno immediately dips and leaves us with the Mr. Motherfucking X, who is back, and the game is just surprise after surprise after surprise. This chase through, short and sweet, was intense, and Leon had to rely on more than just his good looks once more. We managed to escape Mr. X and get out of RPD, and we find our way back at Kendo's gun shop for a moment's respite. For 28 years, Leon has always looked back on the events of Resident Evil 2 and has always felt like the weight of the world is on his shoulders. Dude's just existing out of spite at this point, and the failure of not being able to save Kendo and his daughter weighs heavily on him, and this scene gave me my favourite moments of storytelling in the entire game.
That's my fucking daughter. You're a cop. You're supposed to know something. How did this happen? Those fucking things outside. What they did to us.
I'm so sorry. Never again.
Once we leave the gun shop, we find ourselves headed for the orphanage, but first it's boss fight time with Mr. X.
Fuck me. I couldn't save them, but I can stop bastards like you.
Round 2. Fight!
The fight plays similar to the encounter with him at the end of Resident Evil 2, however Leon's far more ready this time, and there's a moment during the parry to Mr. X where he kind of gives Leon a look as if to say, oh shit, you are not the same rookie I fought 28 years ago. I know it's not the same Mr. X as before, but that's a pretty cool headcanon moment. One cool aspect of Leon here is he can parry a fucking car being flung at him. I wasn't able to do it, but it's entirely possible. My favourite element of this fight is when you melee attack Mr. X when he's stunned. It feels so personal and rage-filled, it's got to be therapeutic for Leon. Once we defeat Mr. X, we head on into the orphanage and it leads us to the remains of the train station Jill and Carlos used in Resident Evil 3. Again, a cool callback to the earlier games. We move on and are greeted with another callback from the past, Plant 43. Granted it was Plant 42, but this is still pretty cool. It's a short but sweet encounter, and Leon trash talking a huge plant will never not be funny to me.
Just so you know, I've killed every plant I've ever had.
It's generally a super easy boss fight and reminded me a little bit of the Poison Ivy fight from Batman Arkham Asylum. We deal with Plant 43 and head into Ark, the final area of the game. The Ark is yet another lab created by Umbrella, and it gets you thinking, how many labs do Umbrella have under Raccoon City? We always seem to end up with a new variation of a lab in these games. We find out where Grace and Zeno are and quickly get interrupted by an elite guard who, if they spot Leon, will shred his health, and much like the zombies with guns before. The section was frustrating but cool as hell because it highlighted how much more wise Leon Kennedy is now and how he uses his surroundings to his advantage. It felt very John Wick. There are two possible ways to deal with the elite guards in the second area. You can kill them yourself or you can unleash the liquor that's in the room. Naturally, we chose the latter. So if this is the elite guard, then I'd hate to meet their boss. Is that fucking hunk? This right here is the best boss fight in the game, 100%. And I love that we finally got the Grim Reaper face to face with Leon. It has the same energy as Batman vs Deathstroke in Arkham Origins. Look, he even does the neck grab the Hook does. It's absolutely him. Parry after parry, hit after hit, we finally deal with the Commander and head into the main chamber where Zeno and Grace are. Zeno's adamant Grace knows the password to unleash Elpis, but she's not so sure she's who he's looking for. Leon interrupts and rescues Grace, and they both end up in the lower end of the facility. Leon faints, and when he comes to, his infection is approaching stage 4. It's almost lights out for Leon. We're reminded why Leon is fighting for the right thing, and Grace stands her ground with him and tells him no matter what happens to him, she is to finish what they started.
City was where it all began for me. When it all happened, I couldn't make a difference. So I am here now.
We can't stop Zeno.
He said something about you having a password. What was he talking about?
I don't know. I'm sorry. Here.
I'm going back. I'm gonna destroy Elvis.
I'm coming with you.
No, you're not.
I don't want any more regrets. Whatever it takes, count me in.
If anything happens to me, you promise you'll end this.
I promise.
We switch back to Grace, who's feeling as brave as ever, and that feeling of alien isolation comes creeping back because dealing with lickers in first person is nightmare fuel, and I need more of this injected into my veins. We can use bottles of acid to deal with the lickers in one go, and we have yet another series of items to get that evolved progression in the form of 2 orbs and 2 keys. The keys will give us access to the second orb and will also allow Leon to move further into the facility. The stealth element of Grace is well and truly flexed here, narrowly avoiding lickers while moving around was pure fear, and I love it. We get both orbs and enter the room where Morgan Freeman helps Batman and uncover more news about Grace. Remember at the start of the game when we found the file and discs left behind the painting by Alyssa? We play that disc and are greeted by an interview from Alyssa where she was speaking to a dying Oz Spencer who has since shown atonement for what he unleashed on the world. He expresses that he is remorseful and wants to set things right. He has a baby brought in and has Alyssa hold the baby. We then find out that this is Grace and that she is Spencer's hope and that she will serve as a requiem for Spencer's past actions.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell me?
I've said my piece. I only hope it serves as a requiem for those who have passed.
Deducing that hope is the password for Elpis, she returns to the main chamber with Leon, who, in the time of Grace seeing this interview, has moved through the facility and ended up back at the main chamber, and is now more than ever on death's door. We even get a cool callback to Ada here with what Leon says.
Hey, you. I was just resting my eyes.
Here we are greeted with 2 options, destroy Elpis or release Elpis. Destroying it gives us the bad ending of the game, and I will explain why this is the bad ending. Elpis is not a weapon to control the mind of whoever it infects. Elpis is an antiviral agent that Spencer created to wipe out all forms of viruses that have been created by Umbrella. At surface level, sure, you could make the argument of not trusting Spencer because it's the man who created all the horrors that we've encountered in the universe. Is he really going to atone for that? I think he genuinely wanted to correct these errors, but I do have a theory as to what may potentially happen down the line. I don't want it to, but it could be interesting. Picking the bad ending as well does lead to Leon being killed here, and I don't want to show it because it really hurts to see. Fuck! If we pick the good ending, which is the canon ending, we release Elpis and cure Leon, who immediately looks like $1,000,000. Zeno injects himself with Elpis and quickly realises he's made a grave mistake. The T-virus is erased from his system and his powers disappear. If you haven't figured out at this point, Zeno's clearly a clone of Wesker and is genuinely one of the most forgettable Nothing Burger characters, but that's not a bad thing. This guy's nothing, or as a returning Gideon would say, he's an imitation. Nothing will ever compare or top OG Wesker, and I must admit I have my theories about Wesker after this game. Gideon returns, mutates, kills Zeno, and activates Arc, self-destruction, citing that through Elpis he will sow chaos and confusion in the world. Yeah, Gideon, I love you and all that, but I do have to say that's a plot hole filled option, and I have many reasons for thinking so. We pick back up with Leon and take Victor on, with Leon dropping the coldest line.
Time to bury Umbrella's last skeleton.
This fight is the last bit of the game, and while it's not really a strong boss fight to finish the game off, it really feels like the end of not just this game, but Resident Evil as a whole. Victor Gideon grows a tentacle arm and becomes Spider-Man to maneuver around the area, often channeling his key energy and unleashes a devastating attack. But once we deal with him here, he mutates further into a freaking monstrosity. Despite having my issues with the fight, the revelation of Victor Gideon being a goddamn nemesis was so cool, and all the little hints throughout the game add up. The enormous stature, the RPG, and the fact that he's a relentless bastard makes so much sense. This is clearly an advanced version of the Nemesis Parasite, and I love that over the course of the fight, he seems to be losing his intelligence and becomes a lot more monstrous. This part of the fight plays out exactly like Nemesis in the remake of RE3 at the end, and once we shoot the glowing spots, we get up close and personal and use the appropriately named Requiem to put an end to Victor Gideon.
This time, you ain't getting back up.
Oh, Leon, I love you so much. In the end, Leon sits with Grace and is rescued by Chris Redfield's group, Hound Wolf Unit, and is brought back to the surface.
Leon S. Kennedy?
Depends who's asking.
Alpha, you read me, sir? Yeah, they're safe. I got them. Yes, sir. Mr. Kennedy, I have a message from Captain Redfield.
Leon tells Sherry he will be giving her the cure soon, and then comforts Grace about Emily.
I wish we could have saved Emily.
Grace, I didn't hit any of her vitals. She could still be alive.
What are you saying?
Maybe we can save her.
I'm calling bullshit on that one. Look at where I'm shooting her, Leon. I don't know what you count as vitals, but I'm fairly certain there are numerous vitals there that are being shot at. Grace is relieved that there is a chance that Emily could be saved. Leon walks away, removing his gloves, and no doubt heads home. But the real question, though, who's Leon married to? Ada? Claire? I think we all know who it is.
Welcome!
All in all, my time with Requiem was one that I'm very sad that I'm not going to get to experience again for the first time. There are a few games that come out that I'm genuinely so hyped for, to the point where once I get past that first playthrough, I'm really sad. And I was. When I finished Requiem, I just sat there on the main menu for ages, just kind of like processing everything that I just experienced. The song that plays at the end of Requiem, I think, is hauntingly beautiful. And the main menu changing at the end of the game is really cool as well. It's such a lovely, heartwarming ending for Grace and Leon's story here in the game. Leon goes back home, presumably to his wife. We are getting DLC later on this year, which I think is going to dive into that part of it a little more. I know the devs expressed that they wanted to include stuff about his marriage, but they just didn't feel like it was necessary. I kind of agree, but it's cool that they've gone, we want to explore these different avenues in the DLC. It could very well talk about how Leon was missing during the events of Resident Evil 7 and 8, what he's been up to, what he's been doing. With Grace adopting Emily, Grace has the opportunity to be the mother for Emily that Emily never had. She gets to honour Alyssa in such a way where it was like, you weren't my mum, but you were at the same time, and that's echoing what she's going to do for Emily. All in all, Resident Evil Requiem was full of some really amazing callbacks. Some plot holes were there, but no game's perfect. Getting to see Leon Kennedy back in this game was just like, he is my favourite Resident Evil protagonist, and getting to experience him in the RE engine at its best was so cool. And I know for a fact, in terms of mainline entries, Leon's story is not done. And one of the things that I thought about where the IP was headed was if Resident Evil 10 is being set up, especially with that ominous ending scene with the BSAA, it could very well be a Leon Chris focused game, and it'd be cool if we get to see Grace again. I know there was a lot of criticism around Grace, like with her stuttering, and overall some people just thought she was a bit boring, but I think she was great. And I'm looking forward to seeing potentially more of Grace, because it's a nice callback to Outbreak, it's a nice callback to Alyssa. You know, that expanded universe of Resident Evil that's kind of getting brought into mainline entry was really cool. And like, even with Victor Gideon being a nemesis, while I did have some criticisms about that, I absolutely loved it. Because Nemesis being my favourite bioweapon, it was just ticking a lot of boxes for me. And yeah, despite having its criticisms, I fuck with it. It's great, and going forward, these are some things that could do with a bit of refining, but I still had fun. It's a great game, and I believe it did take my top spot for a bit, with Resident Evil 2 and 4 being in second and third. You know, even Resident Evil 3 got bumped out from the top spot, which was insanely hard to do because that's my favourite out of the OG3. But yeah, I had a blast with Resident Evil. I am just splurging out information at the end of this video. This should have ended about 4 minutes ago, but I just you know, Resident Evil means so much to me. It's the franchise that I grew up with, horror-wise, and it's still going strong. And considering that this franchise was on death's door 14 years ago, it's made one hell of a comeback with the launch of Resi 7. So if there is one thing I'm grateful for Resi 7 for, it's for bringing my favourite franchise back. And it's only as I've gotten older, I'm now 30, it's only, we've just hit the 30-year anniversary of Resident Evil, I just really am appreciative of what this franchise has done, not just for me, but for the horror community and for gaming as a whole. It stands head and shoulders above a lot of the other horror games, and I think it will continue to do so for a long time. So we will be covering more Resident Evil games in the future. I'm going to be talking about the OG 4, Resi 5, and eventually Resi 6. I'm going to be talking about the remake of 4, I'm going to be talking about the remakes of 2 and 3, and Code Veronica, all those games that I have played that are in my repertoire, I will be talking about them. So thank you guys, really. I really appreciate you sticking around and enjoying the content that I've got coming out. A lot's gone on, it's still going on. I'm dealing with it, I guess, but I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy days to watch my videos. So thank you, and I will now get out your hair, and I'm gonna go play Resident Evil again. So I will see you guys later. Thank you very much. Smashed it.